Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a great day. I know we're getting close to the end of the year, 2022. Cannot believe it. It could be a very stressful time for a lot of us. Just know that there's help available and you are not alone in all this. I have today my friend Gus Moreno. He served for the City of Fontana police for 22 years, spent time in patrol, investigations, traffic, motors, and is currently in administration in charge of PD fleet operations. Gus shares his experience and his story of recovery and resilience to show others that there is hope. If you're needing help at all, please reach out and tell somebody. Tell somebody that you're going through whatever you're going through. Don't keep it a secret. There's lots of us out here that have gone through what you're going through and know the way out. And the way out is not easy, but it's a lot better than the alternative. Keep your chin up. Know that you'll get through this. You can get a hold of me at mkoch1515@gmail.com. You can go to my YouTube page for Positive Connections Radio and on Facebook also with the same name. I want to leave you guys with something that somebody sent me a few days ago. I thought it was really cool. And thank you very much, Molly. You rock. I don't know who needs to hear this, but your ability to create the reality that you want is directly determined by your willingness to experience its opposite. Saving money will have you feeling broke, while it's actually making you rich. Setting boundaries will have you feeling alone when you're creating new healthy relationships in your life. Digging up your trauma will have you feeling broken while it's actually healing you. Working out has you feeling weak while it's making you strong. Learning something new makes you feel dumb while it's making you more intelligent. Your ability to attain the thing that you want is directly correlated with how willing you are to experience its opposite. You have to be okay with being uncomfortable to truly achieve success. You got this. So try to sit through the uncomfortable parts of your life, and eventually it'll be more comfortable, and you'll get to move on to the next chapter. Enjoy the show. This is episode 68, Recovery and Resilience, with Gus Moreno. Welcome to Positive Connections Radio. This is Mike Cook. This podcast is directed towards first responders and others who may be suffering in silence and are fearful to ask for help. You're not alone. You don't have to lose it all in order to get help. Trust yourself, stand up, and break the stigma.
Yeah, you know what? This week was an amazing week. I had Wednesday, I got back to work, and the Resiliency Project, which is another buddy of mine named Nick Wilson, he was teaching at the PD, and he ended up asking me to go up and speak in his class, which was just awesome also.
That's great, man.
So I had a real good chance just to share all week, and you know what? It was awesome.
You've been with Fontana Police Department with 22 years?
Just hitting 22, yeah.
Right
and
on,
ready
man.
to hopefully retire maybe in the next year. Yeah.
Good. So how's it been? Why don't we talk about like what happened in the very beginning, what made you become a police officer, and then, what happened during it, and you could talk about what happened and what it's like now.
Perfect. Well, let's see. I actually started my career late. So I started about 29, almost 30 years old, come over from the private sector, working at Southern California Edison doing energy theft. So still along the same lines, still more of a restitution, more on the business side, but I decided I want to go catch bad guys and chase them and carry a gun and make a big difference. So put myself through the academy. Well, I got hired by Fontana, went through the academy a little later than most, but that I think helped because you go in with a little more life experience, not knocking the guys that go in at 20 and a half and become an officer at 21, but I think it's good to have a little bit more life experience and to be a little more well-rounded right when you go in and stuff. And then started the career rocking and rolling and Fontana was back in the good old days of like cowboy and just
Yeah,
chasing and gunslinging and chasing bad guys. It was awesome.
that was good. When did you notice that there was because I know we all go into it. I went in mid 20s into law enforcement too as a police officer, and I know that the first 5 years was pretty much. I mean, I was able to take care of business, good reputation. I was able to make numerous arrests and just feel really good about what I was doing. Did it come a point early on that you noticed things changing, or maybe your outlook on working in law enforcement?
You know what? The first few years of your career are really challenging, I'll admit, because your average officer will go in, and I think I did the same thing too, where went in really focused and you're really held up to these high standards and learning all these new processes and really getting ingrained with the culture of law enforcement and just really learning, just being a sponge and taking in all that new information and stuff. But the part that I was difficult for me was you start the career, and right out of the academy, I decided to get married. I'd already had a girlfriend, but decided to get married, and then we had kids right away. And you're going through the FTO program, you're going through the your probationary period, and you're a new boot. You're
Yeah.
working graveyard weekends, so that already right off the bat, and then plus the stress of the job and learning new things, that's putting an impact on you and your life already straight off the bat. So that was a
Yeah.
little bit of an impact, and then everything went well for the first couple years, and then unfortunately, that's when I got a divorce. A couple years in, about 3 years into the career, and then that was the big impact. So that was a big deal. I think that was
How'd your life change then, and how'd your life change as being a police officer at that time?
well, and you really you put your heart and soul in like all of us, we truly do this job, and you put your life on hold, so to speak, sometimes because you really truly want to excel and you really want to make a difference, and you really want, especially me starting a few years later in my life, I really wanted to make sure that I succeeded. So you really put in for that overtime, you put in for those spots, you work those extra shifts, and you're gone, unfortunately, and gone either on the weekends or gone on overtime. And unfortunately, you're just not home when you have some new kids and babies. And a wife really didn't take that well, and she decided, you know what, well, I'm leaving, and that was a huge
Right.
impact because now you're still, you want to make sure that, did I make the right decision? Did I make
Mhm.
the right career decision? And did I really truly give my family enough time and the dedication that they would have deserved? But you continue on. Yeah.
Take us a little bit into your career and in your life, and what happened. Did you get into? I know you got into a lot of stuff. We all do in the field. You know, what brings you to recovery right now?
Sure. I know that poor coping skills obviously got me into this.
What's
That
that?
was the main, poor coping skills got me
Oh,
into
poor
this,
coping skill. Okay, all right.
and making some bad decisions, of course. And I think we grow up, even on your personal side, in a culture where alcohol is okay, and even in my family, and it wasn't a taboo. It was something, okay, cool, you drink, you have fun, it's at parties, it's prevalent here and there. But then also, once I got into the PD life, that was your stress relief of, we called it choir practice or CP,
Right.
after shifts and to debrief and things like that. You would go and shoot, we'd be having beers in the parking lot of the PD at the end of a shift. They got dropped off in the bed of a truck, and you would just sit there and pound beers and have some fun, and then go home and come back for your shift the next day, or if that was your Friday, you'd finish up for the week. But you'd talk about things, and you would debrief about any of the craziness. But the main thing was just you're drowning your sorrows there a little bit, and that was just normal culture. Or we would just meet up on our days off, and you'd be sitting on the end of the bar at the yard house, and that was your excuse to watch some football games or hang out and just hang out with the boys. So I think that's where it started cutting into my family life and things like that. I started, unfortunately, prioritizing that over being with the family and doing things, just because you end up getting into situations. And like I mentioned, over at Fontana, we're a really super busy city, and got into officer involved shootings, critical incidents early into my career, within the first couple years.
Right.
got into a personal officer involved shooting myself. And I spoke about that just the other day, that you always question of, hey, you know what, you're making split second decisions, but here I am, a
Hmm.
new cop. Did I make the right decision? You have to deal with the legalities, you deal with the administration, you deal with all those factors involved. Luckily, everything turned out great. In that particular situation, luckily, I missed the guy.
Oh yeah.
Good for him, too.
Yeah.
But it was still a critical incident just a couple years into my career. And that really kind of set the stage of knowing, hey, also knowing, hey, you know what? This shit's real. We
Right.
deal with deadly situations. We deal with those critical incidents. It really is, you got to stay on focus. And it almost also to the point made me a little bit hypersensitive to make sure you're always aware of your surroundings and all that too.
But more like hyper vigilant, right? Don't we all? We're
Also,
trained
yeah,
that way,
hypervigilance.
and then getting through a OAS and the ramifications that way. Did you feel like you were sort of being put on trial, or did it go pretty smoothly?
You know what? Luckily, we have a really good department that supports you. You still feel the interrogation and the investigation portion, but it's not as difficult as nowadays. It's unfortunately a lot more intricate.
Yeah.
It was a little more easier back then, which would have put about 18 years ago or so
Hmm.
is when it happened. It was still stressful.
Yeah.
Definitely being put in a room and they take your gun and you wait to get interviewed and just make sure that you say the right things and you don't show your weakness. Then
Yeah.
it was difficult.
How traumatic is it to live with too after being in, and you've been in more than one, right?
Yeah, I've actually personally just one where I've shot present with other officers. I would probably put it in more than like 6 or 8 at least, where we've had all those shootings, and unfortunately we've had to take some people out, and unfortunately just use force. And a lot of times police work ain't pretty, but
No.
unfortunately it's a necessary job. So yes, unfortunately been involved in quite a few. Yes.
Yeah. And how big is your department? How many sworn do you guys have?
We're on patrol about 200, total sworn about 300.
All right. And it's a pretty good sized department, and the amount of crime that's involved in your city too. I mean, it's pretty keeps
Yeah,
you
it's
busy.
truly cleaned up over the 20 plus years I've been there. I know that we are up there as far as being one of the safer cities now. But when we originally began, yeah, it was a lot more prevalent and unsafe.
Thank you, man. And thank you for doing what you do and continue to
Thank,
do what you're doing. I know it's changed
thanks.
over the last 22 years for sure. Now we all
It,
have
it
body
definitely
cameras
has.
on and everybody's watching. And even if you're doing everything exactly right, you're still going to be second guessed. It seems that way.
Yeah, no, definitely the whole culture and the whole law enforcement, political environment, whatever you want to call it, or movement of anti-police. Yeah, it definitely has taken a toll on quite a few officers, and I've noticed it lately.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's hard enough about, going out there and helping people, especially when, the day before they're yelling at you and screaming at you. And all of a sudden, okay, well, I guess we do need police. Can you guys come over here and help get this guy out of my house? That's what we're doing. We're public servants. So anyways, you talked about alcohol issues and stuff. And I know you pretty well. And I want to thank you again for coming on here and sharing your story because, a lot of people need to hear it. Definitely. It's really important that we do hear it. We do talk about it because us just talking about this on a podcast might open up other doors for other people to start sharing their experiences and what they're going through and that they're not alone.
No, definitely. I was actually just thinking about that yesterday. That going through the first responder wellness program and through rehab and through the other programs that I've been to, and even just classes and training and things like that, having somewhat of a mentor or having those guys that allow themselves to be vulnerable or share the information truly made it easier for me.
Yeah.
It was knowing that even when I was in the program, we had some guys and alum come down and speak, and you see that light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that, hey, you know what? I might be going through this little rocky road and I might be in the program and I'm in the trenches right now. But if I put in the work and I continue to do what I need to do, you can succeed. And like even in my situation, I'm going to be hitting 3 years coming up in February. So I'm
Nice.
knocking on that door, and
What
we've
is your
got,
date? Is your date the 22nd?
it's actually, you got a good memory. It's
All right.
2/2. So it's February 2nd,
2/2.
2020 is when I
Okay.
became sober. So yeah, it's
Okay.
it's a pretty good date for me.
2/2/2020. All right.
I'm not a huge numerological kind of guy, but
Right.
that date actually has some other significance too.
Good for
It's when I
you.
got married. Just crazy that how numbers work out like that. It's interesting.
Well, and you get to see it too, and being with your peers also. That's what's so special about finding recovery with peers. And I'm just not saying just with the first responder wellness program. However, there's other meetings and stuff that are available to people out there. Peer support fellowship groups, even with your own departments too. I mean, if you have a solid peer support team, that is really not just a stepping stone to another position possibly, or make you to look good. If you actually really have a good peer support team, you're going to have meetings, you're going to have connections with other agencies and other groups that just deal with first responders and get us. They'll have those referrals and information for you. And if you choose to seek help, you'll know it's a strength instead of a weakness, and being vulnerable to your buddies. You don't have to do it anymore over a 6 or 12 pack of Michelob or whatever you're drinking, just so you can show those emotions. Because you said before, choir practice, yeah. I don't think we were ever allowed to say that when I was in the 90s, but but we did, and we did drink, and those were one of the only times where I felt like I was able to release some emotions that I've been holding inside. It could have been from weeks before or years before, or continued, or that day of what we experienced, because we have to have that command presence when we're out in the field. But then when we go back to our station, or go back in our patrol car, most of us are riding along solo. Not many departments, maybe big departments. I don't know if you guys do or not, but I know LAPD, there's some units that do, but you're pretty much alone. And when do you actually get to process it? After you take 15 more calls at the end of the night, and you're writing reports until 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. We ride solo in the cars, so we're by ourselves. And you're right. You can handle a difficult critical incident, and you finish up the call, and you just jump in your car, and you just go on to the next. Hit that 10-8 button, and you're like, all right, cool. Let me just go to the next. But you truly do need time to process. Like you were saying, it might be it's a good thing to be able to take a few moments, take a few minutes, and maybe even meet up with a partner or something and say, hey, you know what, that did affect me. Even talk about it and just verbalize it. That makes a huge world of difference. Keeping it in your group, in your first responder group, or even just your group of friends, having that safe place makes a really big difference.
Oh
I
yeah.
saw something the other day that said, whether you're telling good or bad stories, and you could be shameful of some things you've done, or drinking, or things that you don't deal with things correctly, but it was a really good post that said shame dies in a safe place when
Hmm.
you can tell that story. And it really does, because you can tell that, and that's kind of like the groups or the peer support or the over at First Responder Wellness. You can tell these guys anything, and nobody's going to judge you, and you know that being vulnerable and sharing that is safe, and nobody's going to question it, but just try to do something maybe to help you out.
The biggest thing, man, is getting to the front door, right? It takes the
Exactly.
most courage. I mean, you too, getting through the front door the very first time, and trusting that there's people that get you, and they don't want anything from you, but just your recovery, that you can go back into the field. You went back to work. You talk about being sober for coming up on 3 years. How did you do it? I mean, I know that there's other things underlying too. I mean, I know you probably talk about PTS and dealing with that, but how did you stay sober since the beginning of 2020?
It's a challenge, especially still being in the field and still dealing with critical incidents, and you having things that trigger you, or people that you're around that were part of that difficult time in your life. But you come back to the tools and the program information that I received while I was at First Responder Wellness, and also just the camaraderie and the peer support that I get from just all my friends, especially guys like Eddie and
Hmm.
other guys in our
Yeah.
group that you just constantly check in with each other. That is a huge plus to know that, hey, you know what? If you're having a bad day, I can shoot this guy a text. I can give him a call at any time of the day or night. But I know that having been dragged through alcoholism, PTS, traumatic incidents, and all that, I know alcohol just isn't even an option. So I don't even put it on my table.
Hmm.
To know that that's not, it actually scares me, to be honest with you. It scares me to think that if I were to think that alcohol could help me, all my poor decisions were always revolved around alcohol. And it's amazing to see now that I can have situations like, and I can use an extreme situation. Fortunately, my best friend, partner, coworker commits suicide, but yet deal with it with a clear mind because I know that I'm not going to need alcohol or try to drown my sorrows, and I can actually deal with it in a tangible, correct way instead of just numbing it and getting by. But a clear mind and a sober mind just is amazing. And I do look back, and I can look back at all the problem situations, traumatic situations, or problems in my life, and everything always revolved around alcohol
Right.
or the misuse or the bad decisions related to it. So I know that that's just not even an option anymore. And now I can still put myself in places and still hang out with people, and they may choose to indulge or do things, but it's not even on my radar, which is great.
That's so great. I'm so proud of you, Gus. I am so
Yeah.
proud of you, man. And it must
Thank
be, I never got to experience this part, what you did, but to go back to work sober and do this job, not having to worry about, oh, it's my Friday. I'm going to be drinking for 3 days in a row. And, I'm looking forward to sitting down and, watching TV and this cracking a couple cans open and spending my life doing that. It must be really pleasing to you that you can actually wake up every morning sober, do your job, and then be the best person you can and have your days off that you can actually remember.
I'll be honest, that's you. You just hit the nail on the head of remembering, and that is a big thing. Where I would get blackout drunk. I was a binge drinker where I didn't drink to function, but I drank 1 = 20, where I just didn't have a light switch,
Right.
and it was pretty much on weekends and days off, and it was to the point of where I would have a great time, and you can call me Good Time Charlie and all this good stuff, and you would spend a lot of money and chase girls and have fun and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't remember. Or
Right.
you would do something dumb. And now it's truly amazing where I go to concerts. I'm a big country music guy. Go to concerts, go to events, enjoy a show, do all these different things. And you remember all these intricate details. You remember all the fun that you're having. And it is amazing. And you better believe how much money I save not blowing it on alcohol.
Of
that is
course.
that is a true plus too. So
It is so
good
awesome,
stuff.
man. It's so great seeing you having fun and doing those things. I know you touched earlier about like PTS and the other things. You're suffering from that, and you've worked on yourself with those kind of incidences. And a lot of us are untreated, that we're still working with these traumas that we accumulate over the years and are afraid to get help. And we'll get back to that too. However, when the alcohol came into play and became really bad, did you think it was more of the alcohol problem, or do you think it was more tended to the other mental health issues, like with PTS, like you were trying to cover it up?
Oh, I think definitely I was masking the trauma or PTS with the alcohol. Definitely wanted to just isolate myself away from those problems or even have to think about that stuff. Yeah, it was cumulative. So I think they both go hand in hand. You can't say strictly just that, but definitely those things they go together. Yeah.
All right, all right. So you've got sobriety from alcohol, and what about emotional sobriety? So you were talking about PTS and other issues that you've suffered. How's that doing?
That, you know what, is really good too. It's the road to recovery that I've chosen, and from the tools that I learned and stuff. Now I verbalize things more. I was real closed off, and obviously we have that stigma of being supermen and being tough guys, and even growing up in my Hispanic culture of boys don't cry, and you have
Right.
to really truly be that leader, and you do. And in the police force, obviously the command presence and those things, you never show weakness, and you would never do that in front of a bad guy, obviously. In this particular situation, I think I've been able to verbalize, talk about things more now. I communicate better, whether it be with my family. I have an incredible relationship now with my mother, which I still had a great one before, but now I'm
Right.
actually able to talk about more things, talk about the law enforcement and work and things with my coworkers.
Hmm.
Now that they know I'm an open book and an open avenue to, if something does come up, people will come up and hit me up and say, "Hey, Gus, what do you think about this?" And they know that, and it's funny that I kind of joke and I say that, you know what, I've been through rehab. I got a little bit of street credit, so to speak, going through a program, and I can use that experience and help others. But
Yeah.
people know that, hey, you know what? I can go hit up Gus because he's been there.
Yep.
And that is a true open avenue for people to come and ask whether for help for themselves, family members, or even other friends and stuff.
Hmm.
So I think talking, and especially being given the opportunities, the amazing opportunities like this, or going back to the first responder wellness program and doing the alum program and going in there on a Saturday on a whether it be a workshop or a meeting, having the opportunity to speak in front of other groups in the community, which I just had the opportunity this week, or in training and in classes, that is therapeutic to me.
Hmm.
And sharing that word and being able to say, hey, you know what? It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. Let's break that stigma, and let's just show that, hey, you know what? People that were dealing with these alcohol, mental, PTS, and traumatic issues can recover and triumph after that. So I lead by example, and I say it very humbly,
Hmm.
being a good success story coming out at this point, and being able to share that. Yeah.
You're doing it, man. It's awesome to see. It's awesome to see because, and that's why I love working in this field, especially with, first responders, cops and firefighters and everybody. It's just amazing to see the transformation and also the giving back part of it. Is your department, I guess everybody pretty much knows that you're in recovery. There's no secret there, right?
No, no secret at all. It was I was so excited and happy to share that when I came out of first responder wellness, you guys allowed me the opportunity to film a video with you.
Yeah, I remember.
And
Yeah.
it was a little quick 3-minute video for your website and for the program. Yeah, I shared that immediately, and I sent that out department wide, and it received a lot of support. And everybody does know that, hey, you know what? Yeah, Gus did go through this, and I'm part of our peer support team. And I make it very clear. Hey, you know what? If you need help, I'm willing to go ahead and give me a call, shoot an email, do whatever we need to do, or if we need to do any type of training, let me know, and I'd be happy to be a part of it.
That's so great. And your
The
department
department
seems,
has been very supportive. Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, your department seems super supportive of your recovery and helping others to find recovery also. I mean, but there's other departments out there that are probably listening to right now, guys and girls that are saying, I can't get help from my department. They're still in the Stone Age. They're a bunch of dinosaurs that don't talk about your feelings and just take care of business and go home and just don't show that as it's a sign of weakness. And what would you tell the people listening that don't feel that they're able to actually speak out and get help?
You are totally right. There are a lot of people, and there's even a couple people at our department that are just really cynical
Yeah.
and say, hey, you know what? That's not. They don't acknowledge PTS and mental issues or traumatic events to be an injury. When now you look at it's technically you can take PTS. It's actually PTSI because it's post traumatic stress injury of what you're looking at. I would tell those people, you know what, come forward and be vulnerable and share. And the tides are turning.
Mm-hmm.
People, it may not be your direct supervision, but I know that human resources, city risk managers, and all those people. It's becoming much more prevalent because it's coming to the forefront that it is a major issue and it is something that does need to be addressed. So those cities are making it a priority now and starting to see.
Yeah, that's great to see too when they start turning around and saying, okay, start sending people over here to get help. And it's a lot of it's word of mouth and people like you that share your story and are open about it. And you got active recovery, you're working on yourself. There's a difference between stopping an activity or stopping a substance like alcohol, and that's it. Anybody can stop it, but you have to continually, take care of it. This is your new lifestyle. So if I have any notion that I'd be able to drink someday like a normal person, a person that could only drink like one drink and put it down for 3 months and not even think about it, I'm fooling myself. And I guarantee you, if I have reservations, yeah, maybe when I retire, I'll have a drink, or maybe when my son turns 21, I'm going to definitely have a drink with him. I guarantee you, Gus, I will drink a lot sooner than that date. Yeah, I didn't say to myself, I don't plan on drinking the rest of my life, but I just do it one day at a time. I don't
Exactly.
plan on drinking
24
today.
hours.
That 24 hours.
No, definitely. You're totally correct.
So good. I love your story. I love what you're doing right now. So what's the future hold for you?
You know what? I don't know. I got about a year to go at the
All right.
PD, and I'm still having fun. I'm 51 years old, but I could go at any time, but still having fun and still enjoying being at the department and being involved and still being able to do this. I know that everybody has their frustrations of how law enforcement, of the direction of law enforcement recently, but I still hold hope and hope that the tides will change and people, our guys still want to go out there and hook and book and still do the right thing and don't give in to the negative culture out there and still make a difference. And I still want to do the same thing too until the day I leave. So
Yeah.
I know that in the future, I want to maybe go down the lines of maybe some recovery, continue to spread the word and share on not only recovery, critical incidents, trauma, PTS, but also the suicide factor.
Oh yeah.
That's involved in not only law enforcement, military, all our first responders. Haven't had the chance to attend the Save a Warrior program, and then being directly affected at my work and with my best friend, with others. It wasn't the only person in our department. We've been affected by that, and it's a big deal, and it really affects so many people. And I look back to all of those things too, where I'm not saying that those situations could have been changed, but I know alcohol or drugs were a huge factor in all those right. situations. So if we can get on the forefront and try to nip it in the bud and deal with the core issues, then maybe we may not get to the point of having to worry so much about those suicides and the mental illness that comes after the fact.
Man, I love that you mentioned that because we're afraid to talk about it.
Yeah, and we lose far too many people, and it's I'll be honest, if I contemplated it back when I was drinking really heavy, and I was taking a lot of chances back in the day on a motorcycle when I was at work, and I wouldn't say specifically suicidal, but it was almost to the point where you just didn't worry if something happened to you because you thought maybe that wouldn't be a bad way to go on in the line of duty or something, and that shouldn't have never even been a question or even a thought. So that was all, unfortunately, situations when you're involved deeply in alcohol, deeply in emotional and mental trauma, and you think that there's no out. And luckily, there is. There always is.
Yeah, I know. I've lost friends too, and a lot of times it has to do with alcohol being a part of it, being that deciding factor if they're going to go through with it or not. And it's a permanent solution for a temporary problem. So I think the more we talk about it, it's just like, we're out in the field. We're more willing to talk to anybody, a stranger that we get a call to, and look at them like ask them about suicide if they want to hurt themselves, but we're afraid to talk about it with our partner. It's tough, but it's something that needs to be talked about for sure.
Definitely. And we also need to just always reach out and just check up on our partners and coworkers and and even just family and friends, because the PTS and the mental stress and anguish associated with law enforcement has it it takes long strides. It goes through not only the directly with the first responders, but all the family associated and even friends related too, because they hear the stories, they see the news,
Right.
they hear about you getting involved in a critical incident, and that I'm sure it affects them too.
How do you see the public's reaction to you, and what makes you feel good when you deal with the public, especially in these times where not a lot of people are on our side, and they might want to talk down to us or make it more difficult than it already is to do your job? What gives you a sense of hope with people out there and helping them? What's the general attitude?
You know what? That's a great question, Mike. And the big hope is knowing that the majority actually still truly supports us and believes in the police.
Mm-hmm.
We are very lucky in Fontana that we have a very good core group of citizens and a very positive environment out there because we've been transparent. We share the information. They know that we're credible as far as the action that we need to take when we're out there doing enforcement and doing our police work. So that's a really big plus. Luckily, we have the community on our side. But like I had mentioned, I know that the majority of society supports the police. It's that underlying minority that has underlying issues or underlying alternative reasoning behind what they're doing. I think people will eventually see through that. We'll stay resilient. We'll battle through it. Of course, we don't like them putting cameras in our face, and I don't have
Right.
a problem having a camera on my chest because it actually 90% of the time it'll show the dummy on the other side that's
Right.
talking bad to the police and doing something wrong, or I don't worry about my own personal actions because I know I'm always out there doing the right thing.
Right.
But I know that there's the tides will change. We got to continue to stay positive and know that people do truly support us and that we'll continue to do the right thing.
Yeah, it's like the paparazzi police out there, right? You're like you know, you're looking for something that the cops are going to do wrong or just to antagonize them. Yeah, you know what? That's going to continue. What makes you feel good, like driving a patrol car? What brings you joy from people that they make contact with?
Let's see. I know that I take huge pride when I jump in that black and white, and like you say, you're driving down the street and you just hit the streets after you start in the morning, and you're driving down the street and kids are going to school,
Mm-hmm.
and those kids, their eyes light up when they see that black and white and they go, hey, a cop, and they'll look over and point at you, and you can either just quickly hit the lights
Yeah,
for
hit the
them,
horn.
or
Yeah.
you just sneak that little cool wave with your hand out there off to the side because you want to be cool too, and you wave to them and they think it's the best thing in the world. Or I always carried stickers, and you know what? If
Yeah.
I was on a call, I was anywhere. You give a kid a little police badge sticker, and that was golden. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I know that that is a true high, and I know that there's even on the adult side that people do still respect us. You could be in the Starbucks line, and it could be
Mm-hmm.
something as easy as, you know what? I just ordered a just a plain coffee because I'm not a huge fancy coffee kind of guy, but I ordered a coffee in the drive-through, and you know what? The person in front of me wanted to pay for it,
Yeah.
and that is just a true sign of just I take pride in that, knowing that you know what, that person really wanted to make a difference in the day
Yeah.
and do that. And just like you said, just somebody, a mere thank you goes a long way of just somebody saying thank you after a call, or even me having been a motor for so long, you would stop 100 people in a day.
Yeah.
And not everybody deserves a ticket, or not everybody earns one.
Right.
And a lot of times you'd give people a warning and just say, hey, you know what, don't do it again, or hey, just trying to keep you safe. And then if you could, even people that I would give a ticket to at the end of the conversation, they would thank me
Mm-hmm.
because it's all about respect and treating people correctly. And just a mere thank you from anybody out there in the field, it really does go a long way.
No doubt. And especially law enforcement in recovery, some a cop or a firefighter or dispatcher or military, and we're getting help for ourselves. And we go back out in the field, we're working our own program. what a better referral source are you in the field now than just an officer that's just doing their job? They don't really know much about any kind of really personal recovery unless they learn about through the academy or any kind of classes. And you're a referral source now to other people, because we're all human. We all could use a therapy session. We all can use our own group experience if it was available to us. And now you're the one that just the everyday citizen out there that's doing their 9 to 5 or whatever kind of job, they can actually be there. And if you see distress, even in family relationships, even domestic violence calls or calls with children or whatever it is, you have now the resources, and you know that it works, and you'll be able to steer them in the right direction. Whereas before, maybe that wouldn't have been available, and it wouldn't have been available to a lot of departments. Now we have so many referral systems and EAPs that not only help the officers and their family members, but just the people that we contact day in and day out, because we all need that connection, whatever that may look like, and have some guidance and a phone number and maybe someone to talk to. It could mean a world of difference, and it could be the meaning of a life or death.
You're right, Mike. It's I think what you're referring to also is just the human side of our interaction with others. A lot of times we go to calls like what you're saying, and we can be very RoboCop and very just very rigid about things. But if we show a little bit of vulnerability, show our human side, and let people know that, hey, you know what, these officers actually deal with their own things in their own personal life, and they're able to share, or not saying that you give them personal details, but you can share personal experiences and show them that you actually do care, and you have those opportunities and those options, like you mentioned, of referral services, programs, and just knowing that, hey, you know what, that they actually do care. It makes a world of difference to know that they can see that, hey, you know what, this officer actually does care, and it isn't just, let me hurry up and get this call over and done with and just move on.
Right.
Yeah.
Have some empathy. Well, you know what, Gus, it took a lot of courage to come on this show. It takes a lot of courage to continue doing what you're doing. And the good people of Fontana, you guys have an awesome person working for the city. And next time you see a police officer or a police car, just give them a wave, just give them a wave, a high five, all 5 fingers or whatever
that's
it
what
takes.
we like.
Is there anything, I know we're coming close to the end, but is there anything you want to share to everybody that's listening here, and maybe pass on something before we get out of here?
You know what? I appreciate the work that you're doing, Mike. Sharing just the ideas and just bringing it out to the forefront, just to be able to talk about it, is the main thing. Don't be afraid to take that little bit of a chance and take that little bit of a risk, just to share and be a little vulnerable and just have some fun with it. You'd be surprised the things you learn about your friends, family, coworkers, and the guys and girls you work with. You can really gain a lot of knowledge, and you can gain an incredible friendship from all these guys. I enjoy always hearing from you and talking to you, and when anything happens, I know that I could reach out to you, and it actually has happened where I receive a text from you when something happens in my life, and that is a very valuable resource to know that, hey, you know what, I got all these people in my back pocket and in my corner to know that, hey, you know what, I'm going to get through this.
Yep. You are, man. You are. And I'm always by your side. I always have my number, and I keep my ears to the ground, and as long as you keep connected, you're going to hear those things and reach out to your people maybe you haven't talked to or texted for a while. Give them a shout out, and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. And that can make a world of difference in someone's life. Like, wow, someone remembers me. I think I'm all alone. And you find out, no, everybody's in the same boat, man. Just wearing a different uniform.
Exactly.
Well, right on, Gus. I so appreciate it. I hope to have you on here again soon. And down the road, you got a home with us always. And in case you ever want a job, I'm sure that's going to be in the cards too, man. So right on, man. So thank you so much for being on the show. And everybody listening, have a great rest of your day, great week, and be good to one another. Thanks for listening to Positive Connections Radio on the Mental Health News Radio Network. If you're having issues, you can do it alone. However, you don't have to. It takes courage to ask for help. How can we be there for others if we're unwilling to be there for ourselves? So until next time, be strong, stand up, speak your truth, and break the stigma.